Hey everybody, welcome to Home with the Halsteads and welcome to my kitchen. It is canning and freezing time. Time to can those wonderful vegetables and fruits and time to freeze those wonderful vegetables and fruits. And today I'm going to be making corn relish. This is by my mama's recipe, so it's going to be good. And let me tell you, I have a lot to share with you today. So let's just jump right in and let's talk about this corn relish. Now, first of all, I'll tell you that we're going to be canning ours in some jars. I have not tried this, but I've heard that you can freeze it, but I haven't tried it. So I'm going to can mine like Mama did. It's wonderful on hot dogs or hamburgers or fish. Mama and her little friends that got together and had fish fries, they always had corn relish when they had a fish fry. So it's delicious. And let's get started and let me tell you what I'm going to do. Today I'm going to be making only a half of a recipe because that's all the ingredients that I had. But you could make a full recipe or you could double it or triple it. But today we're just going to make a half a recipe, so that's the ingredients that I'm going to be giving you. First of all, we're starting out with green bell pepper, and I'm using 2.5 large green bell peppers, and I have gone ahead and chopped these. I'm using 2.5 large red bell peppers, and again, I have already chopped these so that this video won't be so long that you won't watch it. I want you to watch it, but I want you to have this information too. I'm using 3 onions, 3 medium-sized onions, and I've already peeled and chopped those as well. So we have green bell pepper, red bell pepper, and onions that have been chopped. Now, we're going to add corn, but we're not going to add it until last. And I'm using 6 ears of yellow corn. And I've already shucked and silked and cut 5 ears of the corn. I've cut the kernels off of the cob, and I left this one so that you could see it. So a total in this half recipe, I'm using 6 ears of yellow corn, and it's cut off the cob. Now I'm going to be using 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon salt, 3/4 cup of sugar, white granulated sugar, 3/4 of a cup. I'm going to use some yellow mustard. Now the recipe calls for a small jar, for half a recipe, a small jar of yellow mustard. Well, guess what? I can't find little jars anymore. But I did look it up, and a jar of mustard, a small jar of mustard, is about 6 ounces. So I'm going to do the best that I can in trying to measure out or guesstimate what 6 ounces of yellow mustard is. I'm going to be using 1 cup of water, 1 cup of water, and 1 cup of white vinegar, 1 cup of white vinegar. And to that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of celery seed, 1 tablespoon of celery seed. Now, I told you that we're going to be canning this corn relish, so we're going to need some jars. And I have sterilized my jars in the dishwasher. And I'm going to tell you exactly how Mama did it, because I know some of you use canners, you use water baths, you use pressure cookers, but you don't want to use a pressure cooker on this corn relish because it will make it mushy. So anyway, what I did, I sterilized my jars, and I'm using both a full pint and a half a pint. And I don't know how many jars I'm going to need, so I've washed or sterilized several of them. And also I have sterilized the rings that will go on the jar. Now, I keep my jars from year to year, and I'm sure that you do too, and also the rings. If the rings aren't damaged, if they don't have little dents in them and they aren't damaged, then you can certainly save and reuse these. But I do buy new lids. So I have bought a box of new lids, and I'll tell you how I'm going to prepare those to put them on the jar when we go to seal the jars. But the first thing that I'm going to do is to take a flat pan, and I'm going to put my sterilized jars on this flat pan, and I'm going to put it in the oven and turn the oven on warm. Actually, I've already got it preheating so that I can stick these jars in there. They've already been sterilized, and they will be warm when we go to fill the jars with our corn relish. And then the way that I prepare my lids and my rings is that I just put them in a saucepan, put some water over them, put it on top of the stove, bring it to a little boil, turn it down on low, and these will stay hot as well. So I think I've told you all of the ingredients. I've told you what we're going to need to can our corn relish, the jars, the lids, the rings. And so now let's get busy and let's put this all together and cook it. It doesn't take very long once you get everything prepared. So let's do it. Okay, I wanted to show you how I cut my corn. Now, you may not cut yours this way because you may not have as much experience as some of us older cooks have. But after I have shucked it and silked it and washed it, then I just take a knife and I start down at the bottom and I just cut like this and cut the corn or the kernels off of the corn. Now, if you don't feel safe in doing that, you could stand yours up and you could just cut it off like this. In fact, a lot of people cut it like that and then just break it up. So you can do it either way. And like I said, I've done this for years and years and years, and mine, I can just cut it off like this. So I'm going to finish cutting this one ear of corn, and we'll be finished with our corn, and then we're going to set it aside and we'll add it to our corn relish a little bit later in the process. So let me just get rid of that. And I'm going to set our corn aside, and I'm going to be using this large saucepan to cook our corn relish in. Now, if I was making a full recipe, I would use my big stock pot, and it's stainless steel. So you do want to use a stainless steel pan to cook your corn relish in. Otherwise, it's going to turn dark if you use an iron skillet or a black pot, then it will turn dark. So we're starting out with our green pepper, our red pepper, this is bell pepper, 2.5 large peppers is what I used of each, and then I'm using onions, 3 onions that I have chopped. So we'll just go ahead and mix this around. There's an onion that I did not chop, so we'll just take that out. This is a pretty dish, but it's also a delicious side dish or topping or relish. It's in the relish family. It's called corn relish. Okay, so now let's start adding our other ingredients. I'm using 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt, celery seed, 1 tablespoon, and then I think I'll mix this up before I put the mustard in it. I'll go ahead and mix this. And I'm just going to be honest with you on this mustard because I couldn't find a small jar. I am just kind of estimating, and I hope that I have about 6 ounces. But this is just yellow mustard that I'm going to add. When I did my potato salad video, so many of you said that you put mustard in your potato salad, and I know that is so delicious. So now I'm going to add the cup of water, and a cup of white vinegar. And at this point, I'm going to take a spoon and just stir this up, stir it around. And that's all there is to it at this point. There's a little piece that I didn't cut. So now I'm going to take this over to the stove, and on medium heat, I'm going to bring it to a boil, and I'm going to cook it for 15 minutes. After it cooks for 15 minutes, then I'm going to add our corn, bring it back to a boil, and cook it for an additional 10 minutes. So I'll bring you back in during the process of that. So right now we're going to the stove top, bring it to a boil, and we're going to cook this for 15 minutes, and I'll see you back shortly. Okay, our 15 minutes is almost over, and I think the timer will go off while we're talking, but I wanted to show you that I have the jars in the oven on this flat pan like I told you, and I have pint jars and half-pint jars. So that'll be ready for us in just a minute when we need it. So now let's just swing over here and check our peppers. They're cooking. They're almost, the 15 minutes is almost up, and we'll be ready to add our corn, which we have right here, right ready to go in. And then over here, we have our jar lids and our rings heating up in warm water in the saucepan. And I have a little wide mouth funnel that I'm going to be using to put the relish in the jar so I don't make such a mess. And you can tell it's antique. I've had it forever and eternity. So the timer is going off. Let me just turn that off. And now we'll just add our corn to our pepper. And we'll stir that around, and we'll bring it back to a boil. Well, I thought I turned the timer off, but I guess I didn't. It's just continuing to sing. So now I'm going to bring this back to a boil again, and I'm going to let it cook for an additional 10 minutes, and we'll be ready to put this corn relish in the jars. Okay. Our corn relish is done. Our jars are heated. Our lids and rings are sterilized. They're in the hot water. Excuse me. And this is the point where you want to be really, really careful that you don't get burned. I have a wide mouth funnel right here. As I said, it's very, very old. And I'm just going to stir our corn relish before putting it in the jars. And I'm going to take a half a cup, measured cup, and I'm just going to pour it in there. Now you don't want to fill it too full. And I think that I have just filled that first one too full. I would not fill it up to the top. Fill it about to just under the rings on the jar. So let's do one here, and then I can empty that one out. Okay, here we go. So now, let's get our jar lid. And Mama didn't dry hers. She said, I just sling it like that. So we're just gonna sling it. But first of all, I'm gonna take a paper towel, a dampened paper towel, and just run around this edge. I don't think I got anything on it, but just to make sure. Then I'm gonna put the lid on it, and then I'm gonna get a jar ring, and I'm gonna do like she did. I'm just gonna shake it, get any water off, and then I'm going to put it on top of the jar. Now this is where you want to be really, really careful. I'm holding this with a dishcloth, and I'm using a dampened dishcloth to seal this with. So I'm just going to turn it and seal it as tight as I can. And then I'm going to set it over on a piece of newspaper, just because that's what Mama did. She used to have to put hers on the floor, spread out newspaper and put it on the floor, and let it cool, and then those jar lids will start popping and you'll know that it's sealed. So I'm going to work to finish filling the rest of these jars. I'll take a little bit out of this one. It's a little too full, and I'll seal them, and then we'll come back and we'll see how many jars we had. Okay, our corn relish is done. It's sitting here on this newspaper like I told you that it would. We had 3 full pints, we had 4 half pints, and now we're just going to wait until they seal. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen today. I appreciate your following me, for watching our videos, and for sharing our videos. And I hope you've learned something today about corn relish, and I hope that you'll try to can some really, really soon. And I'll see you back really, really soon.